What's going on, everybody? Today we're talking about part three, how to submit a winning offer with your amazing VA home loan. We're going to talk about all the steps that go into that process and the mindset that you need when you're going into submitting an offer, and a couple of details you just need to understand that will save you some lessons learned, time, frustration in this home buying process and this magical journey that you're going to depart on. My name is David Piatek. I am a loan officer able to help you utilize that amazing VA home loan. You can schedule a call with me down in the description below. So every housing market is a little bit different. So I recommend that you search the market first to kind of understand where you're at in that process. And that starts with the pre approval process. Then it goes into the house hunting. Now that you've found the house, submitting a strong offer, or at least what you think it is. So we're going to go through all those different steps. The first thing that I want to talk about is if you're in a market where you have to act the same day, what does that mean? So you might have be searching for a long time or casually looking, and then all of a sudden you come across your dream home. And for a lot of folks, what they will learn early on in a fast market is that if you dwell or think about it for 24 hours, that home may be under contract, and now you're back to square one looking for properties. And I'll tell you from experience buying properties myself that it's hard to come across something that fits all your checklist items. Now, obviously, not every single home is going to fit that mark, but there may be some things you could do without when you find that home that just has that right feeling. And like for me, when I was searching for my most recent place, it was when we walked into the place, we knew that this was the house that we wanted to make an offer on. So we put together a strong offer number one, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but it's just understanding that timeline. Now, in prior video, I talked about understanding the contract itself. Again, cannot stress how important it is to review that ahead of time with a real estate professional, or if you're doing it on your own, knowing what the requirements are for the area and what the contract actually looks like. A lot of times you could pull them from online, from different associations, or if you talked with a realtor, then they could provide you that contract. What's important to understand is really the timelines of that contract, how it's structured, because just the offer price itself is only one small piece of that process. You have things like appraisal contingency, mortgage contingency. If you're in an area that has an attorney review period, meaning that if you go under contract on a place, you have time to submit your or like do your home inspection. And then if you want things to be fixed by the seller, it's that kind of due diligence period. And your earnest money is protected by those things. And some places they waive all those contingencies, which both makes it a risk. And let me know in the comment section if that's something that you've encountered in your experience, and if that's something that actually made you back away from a transaction, because we do see a lot of people back away from those just because the risk is kind of too high, especially on older homes, because you do want to budget for getting a home inspection, which does vary widely based on where you're looking in the market. Again, some places you're gonna have to move real quick, and even for homes that have been sitting for a while, because for some reason, when you look at it, someone else does, and you're submitting two competing offers with that part. When you're going to submit the offer, you do need their pre-approval letter. Now, that pre-approval letter, we did that in our first part of our video series. You do, it depends on what you want, how you want to present the offer. Let's say you're pre-approved for 400,000 and the property's 325, and that's awesome because you're under your budget. You sometimes realtors will want an adjusted pre-approval to show what the offer price is. So in our example, right, if you're pre-approved for 400,000, then you'd want to submit the offer for 325 with the 325 pre-approval. That's one strategy. Definitely, you don't want to submit a pre-approval for less than what you're making an offer for. But the opposite can happen. Some people will come in for that same transaction and still submit the offer with a $400,000 pre-approval just to show that, yes, I can afford more, but I'm not going to. Now, some people will say that, well, that can be counterintuitive because if you're showing you can qualify for 400, why aren't you making an offer for $400,000? And that just comes down to a mindset, right? For us, at least the way I look at it is that, look, you could afford more, but you're going in for this house. But it also gives you flexibility with the contract itself. So if price goes up or you have an escalation clause in there, meaning that you are making an offer for 325, let's say, but you're willing to go up to 350 if there's other offers on the table and you, let's say, outbeat them by $1,000 increments or $5,000 increments. That is a possibility that adds to making a strong offer. Not every market will accept that, even though they allow it, which is kind of crazy to me that if it's allowed, they don't even want to see it because it benefits the seller the most, right? But I think a lot of times when multiple offer situations, they may come back to you and say, our highest and best offer. What does that mean? So let's say in that example of 325, the house is listed for 320, let's say, and you went 5,000 over. But five people submitted offers, and the realtors are looking at them going, well, like we have offers that are close to the offer price or within what you're trying to offer. And they're basically just throwing it back out to everyone to ask them, like, are you willing to come up more so we can accept that offer? Now, obviously, you have things that could work for you or against you, right? In terms of offers. Cash offers, where someone's coming in paying cash for the property, may be more enticing for a seller because there's no financing that needs to be done. Again, this is why your pre-approvals needs to be strong. You need to submit all your documents. Lender needs to be, at least in my opinion, involved in the pre-transaction, right? Calling the listing agent when you submit an offer. Yes, they're very well qualified. Yes, they can afford this. Yes, we've reviewed everything, especially with VA home loans, because they still have some kind of stigma around them where realtors just don't want to take them for whatever reason, unless you're in an area that has a lot of VA loan offers, especially when there's like military bases around. They're typically more familiar with them, which could be a positive or it could be a negative. The other part you want to consider when making the offer on the property is going to be your closing cost strategy. If you're in a very high paced market where properties are listed, properties are sold really fast, asking for seller credits may not be advantageous because they may look at it and go, well, we have the same offer at the same price with no closing cost credit, so the seller nets more, which makes sense from their end. From your end, you're like, well, this is what we have with our offer. But this is why you need to plan for that. And closing costs on average are 2, 3 to 4%, depending on where you are in the country. Sometimes they could be a little bit more, especially if they have high transfer taxes. We recently came across that where like a $400,000 property had $25,000 in closing costs. I was blown away. Taxes were high. The transfer taxes were extremely high on the property. And just know, even if you're service connected, not paying the VA funding fee, or you may be eligible for not paying property taxes, I haven't seen a county and state that has exempted veterans from paying the transfer tax, meaning that you pay a tax to transfer ownership from one person to another. So that is something to keep in mind because VA loans still have closing costs that go into it. Another big thing that's specific to VA home loans, okay? VA loans don't offer any type of appraisal waivers. And what does that even mean, right? On conventional loans, in certain cases, if you're putting X amount of money down, it's in a certain area, and that house has been appraised before, and in Fannie or Freddie's system, you potentially can get an appraisal waiver, right? Meaning you don't need an appraisal to close on the property. VA loans don't offer that. You have to get a VA appraisal to go out there. Now, we're going to do a whole separate video understanding the VA appraisal process. But I do have a video that I did on the channel last year, should I say, talking about all those steps that go into that process, like what if value comes in short or what if there's repairs needed. So definitely check that out because those are things that you just want to understand getting into it. Because the VA does have its minimum property requirements, which are important in the transaction. Another big piece, okay, to a home buying process in most cases is what's called an earnest deposit. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, but bought a home and I do this every day. And so normally you have to put some type of deposit in good faith on purchasing the property, right? It can range from sometimes doing zero, sometimes $500, sometimes it's $30,000, right? You need to understand how that money is protected. So when you're going into making a strong offer, a large component of that could be making a strong earnest deposit. Now, that money typically is protected, but again, talk with your agent on how that money would be protected. So if you cancel a deal or end up not qualifying, or your appraisal comes in too short, you can't negotiate with the sellers, then you could potentially get that money back, right? So again, that's something to kind of think about. And in some areas, they have another form of earnest money. So you do two different things. You do a deposit down that's non-refundable, and then a refundable deposit like the earnest money. I know that when I bought in North Carolina, they had that, and in recent transactions, they've also had the same thing. So just be wary of that. You can't technically you could waive your VA appraisal on the contract, but the VA is still going to require you to get a appraisal done. And if there are issues, then you're going to have a hard time going back to the seller to do repairs. And yes, you can buy as is because that is a common misconception on VA home loans. And I'll touch on another important topic, which is if you're purchasing a condominium. Now, on the channel, and I'm not going to cover it in today's video, but I'm at least going to touch on it that you know this is possible because for a lot of veterans looking to buy condos, it's extremely frustrating because there's not as many condos that are VA approved that people would like. Okay, that's a process where we submit all the loan documents. Not loan documents. We submit all the condo documents to the VA for VA approval. Now, people will tell you that it's impossible to do that. It takes like 90 days. All that's baloney, right? Typically, on a condo transaction from start to finish, you could anticipate 30 to 45 days, which is a little bit longer than a single family home because we have the condo approval process with that. But if you're thinking, well, what if the condo is denied? Or I've looked at condos and the condo was denied and I wasn't able to get financing. Well, that's because the lender didn't understand that you can do waivers. So even if a building's already denied, that makes it actually easier because now you can submit the waiver with that. We recently did that where condo was denied a year and a half ago. Client came in and is like, I want to buy this. I don't care that the VA denied it. We submitted the waiver within a couple of days. We got it. And this is like in the beginning of the transaction, which is also super positive with that. Things that you want to avoid in that process, okay, in the offer process, is not being realistic on the market, and that's probably like one of the biggest things when it comes to people making offers on properties, right? They may again, we'll go back to our example of 325, right? Places listed for 320, you're coming in. A lot of people are making offers on the property, and you're coming in saying, "Well, we want to offer 280, and we want $10,000 seller credit." That's not realistic in that market, right? In other markets, it can be, but again, this is why you have to kind of go back to where does the market really stand? Because it is a supply and demand and supply market, right? So if there's a lot of supply, not a lot of demand, you have way more wiggle room, and also seasonalities factor into that. And the opposite happens is where there's limited inventory, a lot of buyers, then you're kind of going into this competitive piece. Now, obviously, interest rates have a big factor in that. So if rates are going up in normal markets, okay, because since COVID, things have been weird. Even though rates have gone up, values continue to go up because there's still a housing shortage because of people that have really low interest rates holding on to those properties. So in a rate environment changing, right? So when rates are going up, you typically see a slowdown in people buying, typically, okay? And that could be your window to go into the housing market. And that may sound crazy to some of you because you're like, well, if rates are going up, why would I be going into the housing market? Because listen, you have this thing with a VA loan called an interest rate reduction refinance loan. I've done videos on it, so check out the channel and see what's on, like how it works. But it's a great way to jump into the housing market where it can be not as competitive. And then when rates do go down, you could just do a refinance and get yourself a lower rate. Because what happens, as usual, everyone's on the sidelines when rates are in an increasing environment. And then once they start dropping, everyone jumps back into the market, again, causing more competition. And that's something that you want to avoid at all costs, just because, again, you're going to be now competing for more. Yeah, rates went down, but you're paying more for the house. So kind of negates any of the savings versus buying the property, locking in the equity at that time, letting the market do what it's going to do. And then if rates drop, more people enter the market, causing home values to go up because they're pushing values up again. But you're refinancing into lower payment, better terms, and then you continue to grow equity. That's kind of the thought process behind it. Let me know in the comment section if you guys think different. But that is something that I live by all the time. Once you've submitted the offer, at that point, the waiting game begins. Now, for some folks, it could be relatively quick for that to be turned around. But we're going to cover that in our upcoming video to really understand like where you should be thinking. Should you still be looking at other homes while you're going through that process? But make sure you guys check out the series because it's all things that you really need to understand in the home buying process with this timeline. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.